So here we have our battery racks ready to be installed. We got the front rack over there, which will hold 20 cells, and we have our two saddle racks here, which are going to hold a total of 24, 12 and 12. And so this rack goes in from underneath. We'll raise it up on the jack, bolt it in place. Once we've done that, we'll show you what it looks like installed. The front rack gets placed from outside, from the top in, and is bolted and strapped in place. And so the difficult part of all this is it's really fairly tight in the rear. The front's a little bit snug too, in order to get that rectangular shape. Going any larger than that, we really have to lose our rectangular shape, and we'd have to go to some kind of jogged configuration. But in order to get the saddle racks in here and as tight to center and as far forward and as low as possible, this is the configuration we come up with. Now, these aren't the lightest frames that you could make, but for the cost, for the strength, for the protection they offer the batteries, we sacrifice a little bit of weight and save quite a bit in cost, but we also have the strength. This really protects our most valuable component, and that's the battery pack. And so if the car's in a collision, odds are that the batteries will survive. The vehicle itself may not, but we're designing it so that the batteries will. So anyway, we're going to install this now, and we'll not bore you with the fitment of that, but we'll give you a shot of the after. So stay with us.
Alrighty, here it is with the rear saddle racks installed. Let's move in for a little closer look. So there you see just the racks. Now we'll do what we do on our racks, and that is we insert the liner.
So now that they're mounted in the vehicle, we're going to install our ABS liners. This is a textured ABS, high impact. It really kind of sheds dirt and water and everything nicely. So it provides a nice, clean environment. But other than keeping stuff out, it also provides a barrier between our metal rack and frames and the batteries. So this is kind of a buffer so that our batteries aren't being, whatever slight movement there might be when you're vibrating down the road, that they're not rubbing up against metal. They're up against this ABS, which is kind of the softer of all the elements and kind of the sacrificial piece. And so I'll install that, and we'll give you a shot of what it looks like after the liners are inserted.
Well, they're kind of hard to see. Everything's black on black. And there you have it. So we'll throw some batteries in. Let's take a look at it after the cells are installed. Okay, here's a shot with the 24 cells installed in the rear. They're not hooked up at this point. That'll come later. but they're installed in the battery racks. Kind of difficult to film because they're down in a hole here in the dark. But there's kind of 180 degrees. So there you have it. Well, now we'll install the front rack and the inserts and the cells. So here's a shot of the front battery pack with the 20 cells in the front here. We just have them sitting in there right now. I'm not sure how we're going to set them up as far as the exact layout. This is probably it, but we got to do a little more engineering on that part at this point.
Well, this is our component board. This will go in the engine bay. It's going to be mounted vertically like this, and this is my favorite part. I really enjoy wiring up these conversions. The conversion in general is kind of addictive, and once you've done one, you just want to keep on doing it over and over. Each one a little different. Say, oh, next time I'll do this, and so forth. Just come up with new ways to do things, slightly different look each time, and different technique, and it's quite enjoyable. So what we're going to have here is another side panel will go on right here, kind of finish off that back firewall, and our coolant reservoir for our controller. The Curtis controller is going to go right here. These two holes are for the coolant lines. We have our main contactor right here. On the back side, we have our pre-charge resistor. Here's the key switch relay. Here's our throttle and our maintenance or service disconnect. So from here, the line is going to go down to the most positive point in our battery pack. And also coming off that will be the positive side of our charger. This same line will run forward to the charger, which is in the front of the vehicle, and also take pack voltage up front for use with our heater, instrumentation, and so forth. And then right here we have a terminal strip, which for the most part what that does, it gives us a way to detach from the component board if we want to remove the component board, and it gives us an easy test points. We can check voltage readings and make sure everything's working as it should. And so it's that simple. That's about it. And so, like I said, main positive coming in, charger coming in, controller. It's going to go from our contactor to the controller, positive, DC positive, and then the most negative point from the pack, which is in the front pack, heading back, will terminate at this point on our controller. So that's all of it. I mean, not much more at this end of the vehicle. But there is all of the low voltage controller wiring. And I'll give you a peek at that. So here's the chill plate for our controller. I'm just going to set it in place right now. I got a few things to do before I'm actually going to install this. But just to give you an idea of what things are going to look like. So the chill plate will go in first, and we'll connect our plumbing lines to it and let those come down, because once this is installed, we don't have access to the back side of this component board. The outer one's a little bit, but not this section, and not up high like here. So that will be done prior to being installed in the vehicle. And then this much can be installed in the vehicle at that point, and we'll show you that as we do it. And then the controller mounts to your chill plate like that. Okay? So, right across from here is our battery positive. And so, you can see how so here's the battery positive. Battery negatives, here it's going to drop down out of sight right away. And that's our throttle. We use a cable that goes down to some linkage underneath the vehicle. And then this is the wiring harness for the controller. This is the plug that will then plug in the bottom of the controller. This is all our low voltage controls. And from there, we connect to our gauge, which will be in the dash or under the dash, to the encoder, which is comes off the end of the motor, and then a host of other inputs as well as some outputs. And that is all right here on our schematic. And so we'll go ahead and hook up all of that. Once this is in place in the vehicle, we need to run high voltage lines from the front to the back. Like I said, because we have split battery packs, we have 20 cells up front, 24 in the rear. We need to have high voltage lines that will run the length of the vehicle. And we'll also have some fuses in line. And so, in addition to that, we have this low voltage wiring that we'll have to run also for instrumentation, as well as some inputs like the brake, the clutch. Coming into here, we're going to have 12 volts, which will be switched. Things like that will need to be wired. Once we have everything in place and can see what our lengths need to be and so forth, kind of keep things a little tidy. And so that's kind of where we are. Everything's been drilled and fit and all that. It's just a matter of doing the installation now and the final wiring. So stay with us. We'll take you along for the ride. But just kind of wanted to show you where we are. Kind of noticed it's one of our trademarks, the common component boards. I like things that are kind of modular and simple. So this acts as you know, a mounting board for all the components, but it also puts everything back out of the way and covers that firewall, which isn't very aesthetically pleasing. So this will kind of clean all that up. We've also made some side panels and another cover for the rear that will dress up the back of the vehicle. So anyway, now to do some of the plumbing and mount this and then put it in the vehicle. And since that's all kind of, you know, you're crouched over in a little hole there trying to get things to line up and everything, so we're not going to video that. It's, you know, it's bad enough you have to look at the front side, you don't want to see the back side. So we'll be back when we've made a little more progress. Well, we have everything ready for installation in the vehicle. We have our plumbing lines connected to our chill plate. We have the chill plate connected to our component board. We have all the wiring attached to our service disconnect, connected to the main contactor here. We have the cabling secure. So now this whole section goes into the vehicle. And once that's in place, then we can add the other side panel. So I'm going to go do that and I'll be back with you. So here it is, installed in the back of the vehicle. So now we'll add the right side panel. You can see the left side panel there. So there's our hoses that we can get to once we button things up. And the pump is going to go over here on the side here. We're going to have a panel cover over that area, but that's where the pump will go. And the radiator is going to go in the back here. Or so that's the plan. Stay with us. All right. Here's the component board with the controller mounted, with our coolant reservoir mounted. We put the one side panel in, cleans that up. You don't see the voltage regulator and all that stuff. All the wiring in here, panels not in place, just exposed. So you can see the engine compartment's cleaned up a little bit already. There'll be more as far as aesthetics go that we will be doing. So now we're getting to the point where it's some plumbing and a lot of wiring. Once we have all of our low voltage wiring connected and tested, we also at that time will be running our high voltage lines. But one of the last things we're going to do will be to install our battery interconnects. We're leaving things kind of covered for now. These battery cells will have insulated covers over them, and then on top of that, 1/4 inch thick clear polycarbonate to keep everything kind of under wraps. So that's what it looks like currently. Like I said, next we're going to be getting the plumbing out of the way, install our radiator, the cooler, and the pump.
And so then we also have things to do under the front. We showed you the battery rack in place, but in front here we're going to have the DC to DC converter needs to go up front here. Our shunt is going to go up here because our most negative point in our pack will be in the front here. The charger, DC to DC converter, our safety interlock will go up here. The charge port is where the fill was before, and so we'll take a quick look at that if I can find it. There we go. And so this is just the 110 charge port. And so progress is being made. We'll continue to keep you updated. Well, here's the back with a little more work done to it. This is the Curtis 1239 controller. It's our main contactor and our throttle. Our service disconnect. There's our terminal strip, our key switch relay, our coolant reservoir. You see the motor there. You can see the side panels in, as well as the rear panel. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the rear panel and let you take a look at the cooling system, which is underneath that panel. So the controller cooling system consists of the chill plate, which we showed you earlier, which the controller is mounted to. And we start off with our reservoir here. The coolant leaves the reservoir at the bottom and travels down to our pump down here in the corner, and it comes out of the pump and goes up behind our panels into the upper portion of the chill plate. Comes out of the chill plate and comes to here and enters the cooler. Now this is hard to get a shot of here, but I'm going to try. So it comes through the cooler, enters at the top here, comes out at the bottom, comes up here to the radiator, goes through the radiator, comes out, and goes back up here and back to our reservoir. That's a complete loop. The radiator and the cooler are mounted together, and so the fans blow through both of them, and it's just a little extra volume and heat dissipation due to the cooler. And this should be enough for this setup. We've run this same setup many a time, and this does a good job of keeping the controller cool. Now this is the 1239, which is the 500 amp controller. We also use this on the 1238, which is a 650. Seems to work just fine on both setups. So we still have to put the interconnects on do all of our wiring, both high voltage and low voltage. So we're a long ways from being done. We just have certain segments done. We won't put the coolant in the system until towards the end, but the radiator, or the reservoir, is the highest point. The highest point in our chill plate is right about here, maybe right there. So you can see our highest point is the radiator, which will allow us to get air out of the system. They are kind of a pain to fill on the Porsches here. We typically use a funnel with a tube on it, and it just kind of makes a little S-curve down in there. And we fill it with 50-50 water and ethyl glycol. So that's it for now. Like I said, next we'll be routing wiring, and that's always an interesting thing to do because we want to avoid cutting holes in the vehicle, but we need to put the wiring in a safe location, and we'll show you what we come up with. Okay, here's the stance of the vehicle after all the components and so forth have been installed, or at least are in the vehicle. This is its final weight, at least. Just give you a look at the stance. This looks like it always did. And the wheels are probably set, the body's set down on the wheels probably just a little bit, since it's got about a 300-pound, 240 to 300-pound net gain in weight. But it doesn't look bad at all. View as we get further and further back. View down low. Zoom in. You can see the battery boxes in the adapter plate. Battery boxes are no lower than the lowest part of the car. They're basically in line with the pan. And there's the shock mounts. Just thought you might find that interesting. One of the things that we keep in mind when doing a conversion is the aesthetics. So it'd be interesting to get this thing completed and on the road. See how it rides with these larger diameter wheels on it. Normally they ride on 15 inches, these are 16, and that sets the car up a little higher off the ground than we're normally used to, and so that does make things show a little bit more from the back. Stay with us. deciding how to route everything can actually be one of the more challenging aspects of doing a conversion. How to route things in such a manner that they don't create problems or have problems because of their routing. How to efficiently route things, how to route things where they don't rub up against things. All of that can be a challenge. Where's there room to put things? Where's the logical place to put something? Where's the necessary place to put something? So we've got a couple fuses up front here. One is going to go on the side, which will be on the positive side. The negative leg is behind the box. You can see we can access these things by removing a few of the cells and pulling one of the sleeves of the liner out. But you know, can you get to the back side to bolt it in place, so forth. All these things can create challenges. We're locating the shunt in the smuggler's box here. And then all of the wiring is going to run through this hole that is already in the body. So we didn't have to drill a hole. We're going to put some loom in there so that nothing will rub against any edges. And then on the other side we have our pass-throughs here, our fittings, and then we have a grommet. It's right here, you can't really see it in the hole there. Let's see if I can get a little closer. There we can see it. Anyway, those pass through to the back side of the battery box. So our wiring will come through and be kind of routed in an area that's out of the way, not going to be in the way of anything and be disturbed. But it takes some thought and some effort to make all that come out the way that you want it to.